What's going on there, folks? Good evening. It is the Earthmaster back here on this Wednesday night, April 26th already. Goodness, 2023. About 10:13 p.m. here along the west coast in the state of California. Looks like we got a 2.0 earthquake here off the coast of Morocco. Also a 1.6 here near the Canary Islands, it looks like. Let's go ahead and check out what's going on here across the area. There's that 1.6, the latest quake into the Canary Islands. Nothing big, just the most recent quake on the globe. So a little bit of activity ramping up here across the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench since this morning. Looks like we've had a 5.0 early this morning, and also a couple other 4s spread out somewhat equally across this trench area. So watch that potentially here for some further movement. Has been showing a little bit of sign of elevated activity across the Java Trench here today as well. Seen some further movement upstream up around the Sumatra area. The latest quake, though, shows a 4.6 down here just off of the plate boundary here. Let me see what else we have in this area, because USGS only shown a slight fraction of what's going on down there. Looks like quite a few 4s and 3s and a pretty good cluster within this region again. Listed over here into the Indonesia Islands area. Philippine plate pretty quiet for now, but with all this activity ramping up north and south of the region, I expect this to fill in here pretty soon. All right, let's see what else we have across the Solomon Islands area over here. Vanuatu, south of the Solomon Islands. A couple 4s from early this morning. Looks like we had one deep one and one shallower earthquake here. New Zealand, a lot less active tonight, right? Looks like only a 3.7 coming in to the New Zealand area. Do want to double check here with the GeoNet servers that monitor the earthquake activity there across New Zealand. There's a 3.5 about an hour ago. Also 2.1 within that same area. These all look like aftershocks, or continual swarming, I should say. From yesterday's earthquake activity. Got a pretty good cluster of quakes down here, I would say. Quite the swarm going on here. Looks like 4.2 down into the South Island area as well from about 5 hours ago. But things remaining somewhat elevated there across the North Island, New Zealand area. And let's check out the drums, earthquake drums here across New Zealand. See what's being reported. There's a movement from last night. We did have a little quiet period throughout the day, it looks like, but it looks as though maybe things might be kicking up slightly here in the last couple hours, but definitely nothing like what we seen last night in this area. Had some decent aftershock activity following that movement there. GeoNet server still claiming that was a 5.9. All right, let's see here. South America region, 4.6 into the Argentina area. That's actually an older movement quake there from last night. Not a whole lot going on there currently taking place there into the Peru-Chile Trench, mostly 2s and 3s. Down into the South Sandwich Trench, did see a 5.1. This has been a little elevated down here recently. USGS reporting that as a 5.1 as well. Last 7 days of activity shows a migration of movement up here. We did start off down here into the deeper area of the trench. We've noticed a little bit of surface movement and motion up here, or migration up here to the about the center portion here of the South Sandwich Trench. So we'll watch this for some further movement. I don't think we're going to see an 8-pointer. This area did see the 8.1 here a couple years ago. During that year, it seems like we had about 3 8-pointers. I think that was 2021, if I remember correctly. All right, let's see what else we got. The States. What's going on out here in the States? A little activity into the SoCal area, looks like. Lighting up right now near the Camp Rock Emerson Copper Mountain Fault Zone. Goodness, that's a good one. Pretty lengthy fault name. Let's see, a 1.4, nothing major going on. Did have low activity here, specifically on the San Andreas Fault, right smack dab on the southern branch. It looks like a 3.6 late last night. As far as a little swarm down here into the Southern California area, looks like that has died off. Did have some slight movement about 2 o'clock in the morning or so earlier. Let's see, what else do we have here? 2.5 map and above. There was a 3.1 off of the Calaveras fault zone, it looks like. A couple other smaller quakes stretching up and down that area of the San Andreas Fault, and also a little cluster of quakes here around the Reno and Lake Tahoe area. Nothing major going on, all small microquakes, but still little noticeable there on the map. Mount Rainier showing some slight uptick here, mostly in the microquake department. We'll check that out along with the tremor right now. So let's go to the Cascadia tremor, and then we'll cover Yellowstone here in a little bit. Tremor dying down, 35 epicenters of tremor along the Cascadia, a little bit here and a little bit down into Northern California. Nothing major going on. Looks like that is coming to an end. Surprisingly, because it was a fairly long duration of absence of tremor along the Cascadia, so I was expecting this to be a lot higher and last a lot longer, so that's pretty short. All right, seismograph stations here across the Mount Rainier area. Just get a little visual of what's going on out here. We'll see if this station, 3-component short period station's working there, seismograph. And a couple smaller quakes here listed up on the map. About the same for the early morning and afternoon hours as well. Little spike of an earthquake here. This is some type of adjustment or some machinery coming on locally to this seismograph station there at Mount Rainier, but not volcanic, not earthquake activity, nothing related to that type of activity. But yeah, just looks like some small microquake activity there at Mount Rainier being reported. Up into Idaho, 3.5 coming in just off of the let's see where we're at here. Not for sure which fault system this is that runs up through here, but there's a little one that looks like that runs kind of south in this area. Either way, it looks like 3.5, 3.2 coming in, and a 2.1 into the center Idaho area, Yellowstone National Park. Looks like a couple earthquakes showing up there, so let's see what we have there at the Yellowstone area. I do see a few more earthquakes here at the Little West Thumb area. That's going to be these earthquakes here, about 4 or 5 of them over the last 8-9 hours or so. But as far as any major swarming going on, doesn't look like it for now. The rest of the country, aside from some movement in Texas, that's about it. There's not a whole lot of activity throughout the eastern portion of the country or into Canada. Slight uptick here along the Middle America Trench with some deeper movement quakes there off the coast of the El Salvador area, it looks like. All right, Hawaii. Now, we did have a 4-pointer coming in here. Covers up the rest of the earthquakes on the Big Island. That's going to be a 4.2, the most recent earthquake here. Across the Pahala area. Now, very common to see swarms down here on the southeastern edge of the Big Island. It's been kind of an ongoing sequence of events there since the 1960s. There's a bunch of articles regarding this, and I've covered this quite a few times. But this is very common down here. Not so much to see some larger magnitudes like that, but mostly 2s and 3s. But we are getting a stretch of earthquake activity here across the Helena region, the Helena Slump, also Kilauea Volcano, and a separate swarm up here on the Mauna Loa northeastern flank here. Pretty good cluster of earthquakes, some of these fairly deep as well, down to about 5 to 6 kilometers below surface. I've said it last night, said it a couple days ago, and I think I'll say it again tonight that I believe we're recharging the system out here. A lot of movement going on down there below the surface that could indicate some further intrusion of magma up towards the surface areas. So that includes both of these volcanoes. Let's see what the hazard notification system has. See if there's any changes going on here with the HVO. There is an informational statement that's going to be on the 4.2. The earthquake was actually widely felt on the island of Hawaii, with 89 felt reports in the first half hour. Reported shaking intensity was very light. Little to no damage is expected. They claim the earthquake had no apparent impact either on Mauna Loa or the Kilauea volcanoes. Oh, look, they even mentioned what I just mentioned. This earthquake is part of the seismic swarm under the Pahala area, which has been ongoing since 2019. But earthquakes in this region have been observed at least as far back as 1960. So this is actually a really good article to read. And it kind of explains a little bit more on what's going on there into that specific area down there at about 30 kilometers or so around the Pahala area. So I'll include this as a link into the update video description. Definitely worth a read. All right, across Alaska, slight uptick across the Aleutian Trench, but nothing major going on up there, I don't think. A handful of smaller quakes in the 3 range. Aside from that, mostly smaller microquakes across the area. Let's see, what else do we have here? Some deeper movement quakes out here. There's a 5.2 out here into the Greece area. Now this one's pretty deep, 120 kilometers deep. A couple different trenches out here. That could spell some trouble upstream with some potential further movement around this area. We'll have to watch that. Been a while since we've seen any deeper type of earthquake activity here around the Sea of Crete, but there it is. So we'll watch that for some further surface activity. It looks like there's even a deeper quake here. That was a 2.5. 389 kilometers deep, and that earthquake was following the 5.1. So definitely got something brewing down there into the area of the Mediterranean. Watch that pretty closely. Down here in South Africa, it looks like a 3.1 coming in earlier this evening. Let's see, what else is there? I think that's about it for earthquake activity, folks. Definitely watch the Big Island with this uptick in movement down below the surface. Space weather activity, let's jump into that here real quick and see what we got. We do have a little bit of auroras kicking up here with a slight enhancement coming into the higher latitudes. It looks like mostly around the Canada area and also portions of maybe northern Alaska. Not so much down into the States. Looks like current levels around the 2 to 3 on the KP index board there, so nothing major expected. We are looks like they are forecasting a G1 class storm. It may have arrived early, but we'll continue to watch that. And that was from a coronal hole here that was facing us, number 96, which is now positioned further west off of the center disk. And what do we got there? Let me see these sunspots. Yeah, still got these fairly ginormous sunspots here, center disk of the sun, Earth facing, but they're still not super complex here. I don't really see any specific growth here in any of these. Maybe within the sunspot up north here. Looks like that's trying to develop a little bit further. Here is our newest member of the sunspot group called, where'd we go here? 3289. Welcome 3289 to the welcome to the party, I guess, right? So the latest imagery shows that fairly large structure over here. It does look fairly complex. May have to watch this as it gets further into position here, but there's a lot of intermixing of the polarities in those fields, so Hopefully it stays that way. It looks like we do have a little bit of flaring kicking up here in the last hour or so. A little C flare coming in. Nothing major, but it is a sign of a little elevated uptick in the solar flare department, and I believe most of that is coming off of this region right here. And look at it, it's brightening up. So this may be a player here producing some flares as we head into the remainder of the week and into the weekend. We'll definitely watch that. Right now, 50% chance for a C flare, M flare at 10, X flare at 1. And let's see what we got for the weather real quick here. I'm going to just jump into the numerical models, give a quick glance here at, well, I tell you what, Texas is getting a lot of rain down here. And that is good news. I was looking out into the extended forecast here. And keep an eye on this area, Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas, and to the areas that need this rain the most. It definitely looks like there's going to be some moisture coming in here as we head into the first week of May. And maybe a common occurrence there. Looks like that's going to be a wet one, which is good. But also here for the West Coast, it looks as though we're going to be picking up a little bit of rain as well, which is a little odd for us in May. Just doesn't happen all that often. This is for, and back here, so it's going to be the current date. And as we shoot this forward a little bit, it looks as though it's going to be a developing low pressure system here around the first week of May, May 1st, May 2nd, bringing in some snow in May, which is, you know, it's not unheard of, but it's not very common either. And it looks as though that low pressure system wants to park itself right over, the West Coast, California, bringing in with it some rain, colder air, and normally during this type of setup and this time of year, we'll get some thunderstorms involved. So that's it. Just going to sit there and spin up some moisture over the West Coast. So continue to watch that and see how it develops. So let's go back here to the region of the 48 here. I want to check out the long-term total accumulated precipitation amounts. This only goes to about the second, so that really doesn't include some of the other models I just showed you, but it does show quite a bit of rain extending up into Oklahoma and a good portion of Texas here. A little dry out further west, but also notice here to the West Coast in California showing well, that's somewhat above normal precipitation for us out here. It's not a lot, but still any rainfall in May is a little odd. All right, folks, hope everyone has a great day, and spent most of the day today in the pool with the kids. Got that all set up because it did hit 93 degrees today, so tomorrow's supposed to be about 96, 97 on Friday, really close to 100 here over the next couple days. So taking advantage of the pool setup. And also before it starts getting cold again. I mean, it looks like next week here going to be back to a little bit of winter time here along the West Coast. So I don't mind the up and down roller coaster temperatures as long as it's not consistently cooking out here. There's another earthquake there in the Hot Caves, Hawaii area. You guys see that signature right here? Pretty nice one, fairly nice one kicking up there. See USGS not picking up on that yet. But it is a defined signature there on the Hot Caves Hawaii station. And just in case you're wondering, a lot of people wondering where these stations are. The top one here is called Barrett, which is a station down around the San Diego area, around the Elsinore Fault. We got a Japan station, Black Stump Farm, is in the North Island, New Zealand area around Taupo Supervolcano. Dinsmore, California is around the Eureka area, just south of the Eureka area. There's a station there in Chile, South America. Of course, Hot Caves, Hawaii. That's inland away from the Pahala area a little bit, but they're on the southeastern edge of the Big Island. Another station there in Japan, and then we have a Yellowstone station keyed up here, and some of these other ones are offline around the New Guinea area. But just FYI, for the folks that may be wondering about these live seismograph stations. And of course, nothing being reported here yet by the USGS on that earthquake, but it doesn't look like it's too big. Sometimes you can get a good measurement here with the amplitude readings, but it's probably maybe a 2.5 or 3 or so coming into that area down here. All right, either way, we'll catch you guys back here sometime tomorrow. Have yourself a great night. Oh, look at just coming in. What is that? Is that a 3.9? I wonder why the there it is. Oh goodness. Let me bring back up the map here. It's like a stop and go type of deal. So 3.9 way over here. That's a little odd one. That station that I was showing you there, Hot Caves, is down around here. So that actually showed up pretty nicely there. 3.9, western side of the Big Island, underneath automatic status. So this could get reviewed. It is at 25 kilometers deep, but that's kind of an odd one there. I definitely think we can agree that there's a lot of uptick in earthquake activity around the Big Island here recently, and a lot of that is down there below the surface, where we have magma movement and possibly recharging of the whole system here. All right, folks, I'm off here this time for real. Have a good one. We'll catch you guys back here tomorrow.